Hello. Okay, so teacher LaShundra here, LaShundra, and this is just, just the lowdown skinny really. So I've done the, if Dada is for you, pros and cons, Cambly, you know, this and that. But now I just wanted to just kind of speak to you generally, generally about teaching online. So with my experience now teaching children and teaching adults, then I have a lot more that I could share with you. And I just wanted you guys to kind of realize that there's not just one way, really, to do it. Some people feel, I don't want to teach the kids because, I don't want to have to do all this and do all that. But I mean, there are going to be pros and cons to both sides of the spectrum. So you just have to kind of think about you yourself, what you're capable of, what you like to do, and the platform that you're trying to join, in addition to the money that you're trying to make. So yeah, money. We're doing this for money. Okay. Point blank. If you guys weren't doing it for money, you guys would probably be like, sign me up to anything that's free. But we're kind of, the money's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal for me too. So let me tell you, here are some cons to where you might think that teaching online for children or adults may not be your thing. Okay. Some of you would rather just get out and just go to a job in a building somewhere, get out of the house, go, leave, be gone. Now, if that's a big deal for you to be able to just get dressed and leave, then teaching online is probably not your thing. Or at least if you do it, you probably do it very minimally and then leave. Or maybe you do this extremely, extremely part-time and then go off to your regular job, brick and mortar job somewhere. Because, most of the time it's just Jude and I in the daytime. It's just me and baby boy Jude. My husband's at work. The older kids are at school. I have no friends here at my home. And so, I mean, I don't really see other adults, or life living people outside of the mailman that causes my dogs to bark like crazy around somewhere between 1 and 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Aside from the mailman and my 3-year-old son, I don't really see any other live in living color humans. So if that's going to drive you crazy, then teaching online may not be your thing. It just may not be for you, or if you do it, very minimally. Now, another thing would be if you feel that, you know, you have this many degrees and this much experience, and you want to remain like you want to be serious, serious, serious in the classroom, then you may want to stick to teaching adults, because teaching the children, you don't have to be a clown. You don't have to be silly. You don't have to teach like I teach. I like to be all, yeah, da, 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 bring out the toys, the microphone. I have a lot of props, games, things that I like to do to make it fun, because that's just how I like to do it. I've taught elementary school, and that's it. I used to be, still am, an elementary school teacher, a certified elementary school teacher in the state of Oklahoma, and that's just my teaching style. You in elementary school, you get those more serious teachers. My teaching style, have you seen the videos where the teachers are dancing and they're getting the kids to dance and sing a song to remember something? That was my teaching style. That's just what I like to do. It was fun for me. That's what I do for my kids. That's the type of mom I am. It's my personality. Doesn't mean it's your personality. Doesn't mean it has to be for you to be successful. But my personality attracts a certain client base to me. So I get those parents that they want that. They're looking for that to keep their children drawn in, to keep their children engaged. You might get parents that want you to be more serious, that don't want games, that don't want playtime. And yes, there are parents out there like that. Me, I probably wouldn't do well with those parents. They'd probably be like, no, this is not the teacher for me. And that is fine. There's not really a one size fits all when it comes to this. There's so many different personality types. There's so many different teaching types. There's so many different learning types. Now, so keep in mind that a lot of the tips that I share, I try to, give you guys as much information as possible. But as far as my spin on how I do it is based off of my teaching style. When you are teaching, you don't have to try to pretend to be someone else. Find what works for you. Maybe you are more of a free talk teacher and your reward is to be able to, talk about things off topic. Maybe that's a reward for you in your classroom, as opposed to having like actual stickers and toys and and that's fine. You would just need to find, just find those students that you click with that really receive your way of teaching best. So I don't want there to be a misconception, because I've read comments not just on my channel but just period, where people are just saying, I don't understand why you have to be extra perky, why you have to be so goofy, so silly, talk in a high pitched voice, do this. You don't have to. Those people choose to do that. They find that that's what works for them. Find what works for you. There are men that do this too, and I'm sure they don't wear, they don't all put on wigs and play bring out dolls and hi, how are you? So I mean, there's men that do it, burly men that find a way to connect with their students too. And so there's not the I have to do it this way and that's why I don't like it. You really just have to find what works for you. And so when you are looking to get tips, don't try to copy the teachers that you are looking at or, taking notes from. Look at techniques. Look at the techniques. Look at how they feed off the kids' energy. So, just like if you're a parent, one parent may be one way, the other parent may be the other way. The child knows, how to receive each parent, even though each parent may not have the same personality. You might have one parent that's kind of like all over the place and one parent that's a little more serious. And so, I mean, that child knows how to receive each of those parents in different situations. So find what works for you in your classroom. And so once you get that down, you will decide whether or not teaching kids is really your thing, or is it more geared towards teaching adults, or if adults scare you and you would rather teach children. Now, I'm going to piggyback off of that and say, in addition to teaching the adults, you may get those know-it-all adults, the ones that are just like, okay, whatever, know-it-all, that may try to correct you. And that's just because they just feel confident. Maybe they misunderstood something, or there's like the British English and the American English, how that debate which is really not a big deal either way for me. But then there's like applying English rule. How are you, as far as how they want to do that, or pronunciation? Do they prefer British English? Do they prefer the American English? Then there's the, pronunciation. Just explain. So if you are an American, or someone that speaks American English, if I'm saying that right, if that's considered American English, but I'm sure you know what I'm saying. And then you have a student that has been under a British teacher, there might be a little bit of a debate as to how to say a word. Then just teach them that, hey, with different dialects, different parts of the world, different parts of the country even, that these are the ways that are acceptable. So just show them different acceptable ways, and then they would decide for themselves what they would prefer. You can't really just be like, this is what's right, this is what's better, blah, 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 blah. But explain it to them. And then, there is formal versus informal. So then if you explain it to them that way, then they feel that their experience is more well-rounded, as opposed to you just arguing on who's right. Give them a well-rounded experience and different points of views. But you will get those adults that think that, they're just so knowledgeable on the topic and they really don't want to be corrected. They just want to practice conversation. And that's okay. That's okay. I mean, even in our native language, you're going to meet those people in real life, right? So, of course, you're going to come across them in the teaching ESL, EFL, whatever environment. You're going to come across those students because they're people. They're people, right? People. Now, back to the topic of the children. Okay. Now, when I taught, said you don't have to be like a clown and you don't have to be all like juggling things in the air and being all silly. Okay, let me tell you. Yes, there are times that you are going to feel like you are babysitting some children online. Maybe the parents are nowhere to be seen, or the parents are sitting right there passively asking their little one to come sit down, or chasing them around the house with the iPad, and you're sitting there like, I have a master's degree, or I have a bachelor's degree, or some of you, I have a doctorate degree, and this is what I'm doing. I'm watching this little child get chased around the house with the iPad. Don't sweat it, really. If that is like a big deal for you, teaching children online may not be for you. Now, that doesn't happen very often. It really doesn't. You'll even get disrespectful teenagers that are just like maybe halfway off the camera like this, or or I've even had them. I know they're on their phone. That you don't see it, but their heads are down like, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. And so you're just like, hello? I mean, think about, well, I live in America, so American teenagers in the same way. And so some people have this, like, well, in China, they treat their teachers to a certain degree. Yes, yes, they do. They really do. But as far as treating their teachers like to this high regard, and the parents do. The parents are the ones that really teachers are like, oh my goodness, you listen to the teacher, you're going to be smart. You're going to be somebody. You listen to this teacher because you're not going to be a dummy. Like the parents don't play that. But the children are children. And you'll get some of those children that go to school and test the teachers. I have talked to, with my students, they tell me like what happened at school, like bullying. There's bullying in the school. There are sometimes fights. I mean, that's like a big, big deal where, they can get booted out, but it happens. And then there's like verbal altercations. Most of the fights are verbal, not like but verbal altercations. And then I mean, she told me how like if the teacher leaves the room, then people are throwing papers and being bad, running around the class. I'm like, running, like seriously, running around the classroom throwing papers. This is in China classes, you guys. So I mean, it happens. They're just not like, yes, because we are in China, we must act like this. Now, when the teacher's in the classroom and that teacher knows how to get that class whipped up and keeps those parents involved, oh no, those kids, they don't want to get in trouble. They do not want to get in trouble. So they just, if she tells me that you don't do your homework, or you're caught talking too much, you stand up. Like in her class, you stand up all day. You lose your chair for the rest of the day. Like you're standing. Like, can you imagine that in American schools? Like, the parents would have an uproar. Like, really. I've even done that in my class where it wasn't even a whole day because I taught fifth grade and it was a rotating class schedule. And so, for what, an hour and a half, this kid was just, I'm not even going to go into it, but I told him, I said, okay, well, you just lost your chair because sitting in that chair is a privilege. And so, you just lost your chair. And I took his chair. And he had to stand there for like, it wasn't even that. It was like 35 minutes of class left. And then like within 5 minutes, he was complaining, oh, my legs hurt. It's like, well, He lost his chair. And the parents, I mean, that was just like the worst thing in the world. Forget what he was doing in the classroom, but his actions were like, excusable. But me taking the chair and him having to stand for his action as his punishment in fifth grade, not knowing how to act in class, that was the problem. Okay. Now, so in China, they do have harsher punishments in their schools, but those kids, they still act up in class. So yeah, when they're in the comfort of their own home, especially when the parents aren't around, you might get those really bold ones that just think that certain things are okay because mom and dad aren't in there, and they don't understand that mom and dad can watch this whenever they feel like it. They just want to just act up in class. Yeah, you might feel like you are just this glorified babysitter, but I don't know if this gives you any consolation, but you are going to get paid regardless of that child sitting down and doing what they're supposed to do. So I'm not going to sweat it. I'm not going to break a sweat when they're just like, "Nah." I just kind of, I do my best. I do. So, oh, let's read. Circle. And then if you have to, like, don't be afraid to contact, whatever platform you are on, whatever platform it is. VIP Kid, uh let's see what else is one-on-one. Go Kid. I think some of the ones that are not one-on-one, you can even, if there's like you have a group of students and one student's just acting crazy, you can like hide them from the rest so the other kids don't see what's going on over there. I mean, so there's ways around it. They're not going to say sit here and tolerate it, teacher. Report it, write it in the reports, and then they will contact the parents. They will tell the parents, and then the parents can go back and look at it. So don't be afraid to report things that you see. Report things like if they say something to you that's completely disrespectful, report it. Report it. So that is something like don't expect them to just be just perfect because their parents just dropped bundles of money into their education. You're going to come across the ones that are just here and ready to go. And you're going to come across, I mean, from young to old, students that are there because they are forced to be there and they're going to play, or they might give you a little bit of attitude. And so you come about your own way of dealing with it, but when you feel you need to report it, report it. If you are just like zero tolerance, zero whatsoever, teaching children online may not be for you. Okay, here are some more general things. Now in China, retirement age is like 60. It's like 60. So I get a lot of questions like, oh, do they not hire old people or do they hire retired teachers? Okay. So here's the thing. I've heard some people say, oh, I didn't get hired because of my age. So they say it's ageist. There's ageism. To a certain degree, I guess you're kind of right, but they're not gonna, well, they're not supposed to. Well, they don't really have laws against it like we do in America, but it's rude to be like, how old are you? But they really go by, I guess, what they see. When you really break it down to it, they go by what they see. So you may be like my age. A lot of people guess that I'm younger than I am. So if you may be 60 years old and look a certain way and they're just like, oh yeah, not a problem. But then if you look maybe older, then sometimes they feel, okay, well, you know, there could be a little ageism in the industry where they feel, oh no, the parents won't be interested because the they want you to be appealing to their clientele. They want you to appear to be energetic and this. So I mean it all, I'm not saying that you have to be like doing jumping jacks in class, like and a one and a two and a three, but there is a little bit of ageism to a certain extent in this online teaching industry. And they go a lot by how you present yourself in the classroom, your speaking, everything, because everything is online. They don't have the opportunity to get to know you as a person. They just go by, this is what has been presented to us, the whole package. based off of maybe a 10-minute meeting, a 15-minute meeting, and they have to make a decision based off of what you present to them. So there is a little bit of ageism, yes, but generally they don't say, oh no, if you're this such an age, then no, you cannot apply. They just say all ages. And then they go by how you present yourself in the classroom and how they feel that you would be received by their parents. Now, as far as racism, a lot of people are like, this company's racist, this company's racist. I can't speak on that. I really can't. As a Black woman, I haven't had a problem getting hired in any platform that I've ever applied to. So, but that's just my experience. Now, so as I get that question as well, do they hire people of color? Do they hire, and then another one, people in Africa? And then it's assumed that in Africa, English is not the native language, but in South Africa, it is considered a native language. So a lot of companies will hire South Africans, but not every company. So, they just really go by what their clientele is looking for because they are providing a service to the parents. So it's not like, whatever, like in the United States, it's equal opportunity. Everything has to be equal. It's not really like that when you're teaching abroad. They don't go by equal opportunity. They go by a whole different other set of standards. So you just really have to just bring it and present yourself in a certain way to get this job. It's a different culture, different part of the world, different standards in different areas. And so speaking on the racism part, I haven't had that experience, but I have had people tell me that, they have all the requirements, everything, and they have energy, they, this, that, another, but they truly feel, or some say they were even told that they weren't hired because of their age. So keep that in consideration when how you present yourself. There is, slightly. So those of you that are retired teachers, we would love to hear from you. So you could drop comments below on your experiences with that. Okay, and another one. I wrote some of these down so I wouldn't forget. So most of these companies do require a TEFL TESOL. Now, some are like, I have all this experience. I don't have time to go learn a new skill or go back to school, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's a little bit of an investment to further that because that's like a new requirement for most companies. Like Cambly doesn't require it. And because Cambly doesn't have those requirements, they don't require a degree, they don't require a TESOL, TEFL, they don't require any of that. So the pay is a lot lower because they don't have those requirements. They really just require that you are a native English speaker, and that's pretty much it. You're good at speaking English and you can teach others to be patient. So they don't really have a lot of, requirements, which is why the pay is lower there. But most companies do. Now, you guys, check out Groupon. If you're in a country where you can access Groupon, 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 okay? Go on there and type in TESOL. Type in TEFL. They have so many deals on there. They have one at the time where I was doing mine. They had a TESOL for like $5 at International Open Academy. Okay, and then they have some other ones that are like 49, and it's all online, so you don't have to worry about leaving and going off somewhere, depending on what you're looking for. So if you're looking to actual traveling to these countries to teach abroad, like, then you probably want to get something a little more extensive. Contact these companies. They have all their contact information. Ask questions before you make your investment. Now, if you're just trying to get the TESOL, TEFL to teach online, go through one of those cheaper options. They have them for like anywhere from $5, like $20, and it's all online, and you can get it done like in a short period of time, okay, in the comfort of your home. So that is something that most companies do look for now, a TESOL or something similar, TESOL, TEFL certification. Now, another thing when considering teaching online is you will have to, in some cases, wake up very early. So in the United States, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, Central Standard Time. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, a.m. And, some of you that maybe live in China and teach, then you're teaching at night. So it's like you have to, go about your day and come home. You have to be home by 6 p.m. to teach because it's China time. The classes are from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. for many of these platforms, many of them. That's like the prime time because you're getting these kids right out of school. They get out of school, they're done with their after school activities, they're coming home. Now they're going to practice some English before they eat dinner or go to bed. 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So then it's like you're cutting your night short and you have to work before you go to bed. Now, for me, I would not want that. I would prefer to get up early in the morning because when I went to visit China, that was hard for me. I'm out having fun and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 4:30 p.m. I have to rush and get back to the hotel and, catch whatever I need to catch, get on the subway and get back to the hotel so I'm ready to teach by 6 p.m. For me, I was just like, I'm glad I don't live in China. I don't like those hours. I'd rather wake up in the morning, get it out the way. Some of you may live in countries where it's kind of in the middle of your day, where you're doing your teaching. So keep that into consideration, the time zone and what platform you choose, because some of them, wee early hours, some of them you're ending your night. So the last thing you do before you go to bed pretty much is going to be teaching. And some of them you got to be ready to just midday, pause, teach, and then go about your day. So what do you prefer with that? Okay, and one more thing I wanted to address. Daylight savings. If you're in a country that participates in daylight savings times, then yeah, that means that twice a year, the time is either going to shift forward an hour or shift back an hour. And China, if you're working with a company that's based out of China, they do not recognize daylight savings, or any country that, if you're working and tutoring any country that does not participate in daylight savings, then while your time is changing, their time is not. So it's going to completely throw everything off with your schedule. You would have to literally change your whole life. Whereas in the United States, everything just automatically just shifts smoothly. When you're working with these other countries, you're going to have to reschedule some things, like rearrange some things to accommodate for that time shift that happens twice a year. So keep that in mind too when you're going to teach online. So hopefully these were good things for you to consider and see if teaching online is for you. So, with teaching adults, a lot of times you do have to take more control over the conversation as far as suggesting things, because they're like, I don't know. You're trying to put the ball in their court. What would you like to? And they're like, I don't know, I don't know. They look at you as the professional, and so you feel the pressure of, oh my gosh, we don't have slides. Like for Cambly, you don't really have slides for the adults. So you're like, what should we talk about? If naturally pulling information out of people and getting them to talk is something that you run from, hide, completely are turned off from, Cambly may not be for you, because everyone does not come with a lesson that they are looking forward to learning. You have to present one or suggest one. Sometimes they have something suggested, but that's only sometimes. And then there are the other platforms where, maybe there are lessons and then you just have to teach it a certain way and remain professional about disagreements. And like I told you guys, we're not babysitters. You may feel like that sometimes. So if you feel like you need to report something, then report it. But don't forget. So they're being silly, but you're getting paid. That's how I look at it. I'm just like, do, 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 do. So find your inner rock star. Find your you. So my me may not be your you. So find your you. Tap into that. Tappa, tappa, tappa. And then let it come out. Exude it in your teaching. Exude it in your teaching. And then it will become natural for you. You will find your natural flow, your success pattern. And those students that are looking for that type of a teacher, whatever you're putting off, if that's what they're looking for, you're going to draw them right on into you. Amen. So with that, TTFN.